Uh, Welcome to another video. This one is going to be part 3 of the series of videos which are parallel to the updated wiki for NPCs and encounters, and in this one we're going to be looking specifically at creating encounters. So let's open up our encounters window here by clicking on the encounters in the left hand menu, and then we're going to click on the green button to add an item. Um, this opens up a blank window, and we'll give it a name first of all. So we're just going to call it goblins. It doesn't matter, you can call it whatever you like. And it tells us here drop NPC links here to add to encounter. So let's do that. We'll open up our NPC list. We'll filter out to goblin, and this will show us all the goblins that we have loaded into Fantasy Grounds at the moment. So we're just going to do what it says here and drag a goblin into the encounter, and this opens up this line with the goblin on it. We can see we've got the token on the left hand side. We've got the number here and the name. We've got an ID, we've got a faction, and we've got a link here which we can click on, and that will open up the NPC sheet. And of course that means that we can go to the other tab and we can get to the image easily if we wanted to. And under here we've got a placement tab, and we'll come to that in a moment. Up at the top here we've got the challenge rating and XP, and these little icons here says refresh CR and refresh XP, and if we click on that, then that's going to refresh the challenge rating and XP based on the number of creatures that we have in the encounter. Now, of course, it's unlikely that this is going to be one goblin, so maybe we've got 4 here, so we can click on that space or that box there, and we can just edit that to however many goblins that we want. So let's make it 2. Now, if we were to drag in another goblin, that's not going to add another one to this line. Is going to treat this as a completely separate entry. Even though it's another goblin that we've dragged in, it's a different entry, and so we can have different groups of the same NPC, or we can have different NPCs in the same encounter. It doesn't matter, but every time you drag something in, if we drag another one in, it's going to create another line. If we make a mistake, we can come to the edit list button and just delete the offending one that we've added in. So let's make this 2 as well. So we've got 2 different groups of goblins, and maybe they've got a leader. So let's drag in a goblin boss as well, just for fun. We've added a few more goblins since we refreshed the challenge rating, so let's do that now. And this has changed the challenge rating and the XP now to reflect all the different goblins that we have added to the encounter. So let's have a look at these tokens now. We might not particularly like these tokens. These are the standard ones that come with the monster manual. We may have a bunch of tokens ourselves. We might want to change these around, so we can do that here. We can go to our assets, make sure that tokens is selected up here, and just filter out, just type in goblin, and it'll tell us or show us all the goblins tokens that we have from any modules that we have open or any modules that we have installed in Fantasy Grounds. So let's make these ones those tokens by just dragging straight from this token here and dropping it on this token there. We can do the same with this one. We can give a new icon, and these are all pretty much similar, but let's use this one here, and we'll give that one for the goblin boss. So we now have different tokens for each of the different groups that we want to have in this encounter. Now we're not stuck with just the name here. They're called Goblin at the moment, but we can change that if we want to. So let's, supposing this group we could call these maybe Goblin Archer. Maybe we don't want to give away that this is a Goblin Boss, so we can edit that. We could maybe just call this one a Big Goblin, or we can give it any other name that we want. We're not restricted in any way. Now this doesn't actually change the name of the actual NPC. If we click on this here, we can still see that this is a Goblin Boss, even though we've given it a name here. So this name that we're giving it is only going to work for this particular encounter. It's not going to change anything globally. The next thing we want to look at here is the ID. Maybe we don't want these creatures to be identified at all, in which case we can change all of these IDs to red. If the NPC has got a non-ID name, then that will now show on the combat tracker. If they don't, then the players are going to see unidentified creature. So maybe we'll leave the big goblin here as being not identified. Maybe we'll leave these other ones identified. You don't need to have it global. You can have some unidentified, some identified. It doesn't matter. And then we've got this faction. So actually, supposing the goblins have got a captive. So we're just going to drag in a commoner here. Maybe we'll give her a different icon. Maybe we'll call her Amora, and she's been captured by the goblins. Now she's not a hostile NPC. She's actually going to be, at most, she's going to be neutral. She's not going to be hostile. Just because she's been captured by the goblins, she's not likely to be. If she's a goblin prisoner, then she's not likely to like them very much. So this is where the faction comes in. If we click on that, then we can cycle through the different factions that are available. You can see that friend is the first one. Then we have got neutral, and then we've got hostile. And then we've got back to the faction none, which is the default, and it's also the faction of it's also a hostile faction. But let's supposing that Amora is going to be friendly, so we're going to click on that token there and make her friendly to the NPC to the player characters. So our encounter here is pretty much finished, except that we want to place these onto a map so that we can use it in combat. So we've got a story entry here, and we've got a map already. So we're just going to open up our map, make it a little bigger, and then we're going to decide where these NPCs are going to be on this map. And this is where the placement token then comes into its own. So if we want to place Amora onto the map here, we are going to just drag it, and we are going to drop her onto a square in the map. Then you'll see that the little icon has changed now to a tick, showing that this NPC has been placed on the map. So let's put the Goblin Boss on somewhere. Let's put these two on. Let's say that they're guarding Amora, and these two are then guarding this doorway here, and we're done. So now we have placed all the NPCs onto the map, so we're ready when we come to this portion of the adventure. We're ready to get these NPCs onto the map so that the players can enter combat with them. So we're actually just going to close this encounter now, and when we do, you'll see that the NPCs all disappear from the map, which is exactly what should happen. And they're ready, but they're still in the encounter here, and they're still ready to be placed on the map when it comes to the actual fight. Now we've got our story entry here in our reference manual, so we've got a bit of a description about what's going to happen here. So it's a good practice to link our encounter to the area that we're going to actually encounter them. So we're just going to drag and drop this into here, and this is going to make it easier for us when we're come along to this map and the PCs appear on this map, then we can just get this encounter up and running quickly. So if we open up our map again and we open up our combat tracker, let's get our two NPCs, our player characters onto the map. We've done that one, so this one. So we've got our two Bobs onto the map. We're ready now to spring this encounter on them. So we just open up the encounter and then down at the bottom left here we've got add encounter to combat tracker, and we click that, and the NPCs will now be placed onto the map, and they will also be added to the combat tracker. And now you can see that they retained their faction. You can see that Amora has come in as green, friendly, and the the rest of the goblins have come in as red, being unfriendly. And we are now ready to uh, carry on the fight. You'll notice as well that we've got the unidentified creature here, the boss one, and we've got Goblin Archer 1 and 2, and we've got Goblin 1 and 2, as we just left them as they were. We didn't give them any names. So all the names that we gave them on the in the encounter have followed on to the combat tracker. Okay, so let's just get rid of all of this. We'll actually get rid of Amora as well. So let's have a look now at random encounters. And this is where the number of NPCs is not fixed. It's a random number rather than a certain amount. So if we go back into our counters window, we've got this button up here. And if we click on that, and it'll give us a new random encounter, and we should have deleted that, so let's get rid of that. So normally we would come in here, this would be normally blank, so just ignore the fact that there was already an encounter here, and we can go to add item, and this is pretty much the same kind of window. So let's call this let's call it random goblins. And again, we're doing exactly the same thing here. We're going to be dropping NPC links into here. So let's get the goblins back up, and let's drag in a goblin. And this time, instead of a number field, we've got a dice field. So we can type in a dice string here, so 1d4. We can also do something like 1d4 plus 1, or any kind of dice string which is reasonable. We could put in something like 1d6 minus 1. We can pretty much have any dice string that we want in here. And once again, as you drag in a new NPC, even if it's the same kind of NPC as the previous one, it creates a new line. We can get rid of this one. We can drag in a goblin boss, and we're not restricted to we're not restricted to just dice strings. We might only want one goblin boss, so we can just put a 1 into there, and it just will produce one goblin boss. So we've got our random goblins, our random encounter going, and when it comes, we would just link this to our story entry as well. So if we went back to our builder here and come down here, we can now link this random encounter, if we can find it again. we can just link this random encounter into our story entry, and it'll show us that this is a random encounter. And when we click on this button here, or click on this link, it'll pop up this button, this encounter for us, and then we can generate this encounter by clicking on the generate button. And when we do that, it's going to give us a random number of goblins. It's going to give us the goblin boss because we only specified one. It's going to automatically calculate the challenge rating and the XP for us. And incidentally, we can do all the same kind of things as with normal counters. So we could change the icon, change the token here. We can change the name. We can change the ID and the faction. All of that is just exactly the same as a normal encounter would be. Once we've generated the encounter, we have the same thing here. We can add these, but of course, it's not going to add them to the map because we haven't been able to place these onto the map. So what we're going to have to do is to open up our map, and then we're going to have to drag these in. We can use our faction hostile here and just drag these into the map, and then we can move them around to wherever we want these goblins to be, etc. Now there's one other thing that we can do with random encounters. If we go in and create a new one here, add item, more goblins, and if we get to our NPCs again and drag in a goblin. Now maybe we want to generate a specific number of goblins in relation to how many player characters there are. So we can do this. So supposing we want 2 goblins for each PC, we can type in a 2 and then we can type in the multiplication sign. Then we need a $sign and then PC. And what this is going to do is generate a number of goblins equal to twice the number of player characters that are on the party sheet. So we've got 2 characters on the party sheet. So when we generate this, we should get 4 goblins, and there we have it. This 2 times we can actually have fractions here as well. So if we wanted half a goblin, we can have 0.5, which should generate, in this case, 1 goblin. So that's half the number of goblins required. And we can put in any kind of number there, a fraction or a multiple, and it'll generate that number. But it's important to note that it's based on the number of player characters that are on the party sheet. So if you've got 6 player characters and there's only 3 of them on the party sheet, then it'll use just the 3 to do its multiplication. It won't use the full 6. And again, well, we've already mentioned this, but you can change the token and the name and the faction and all that in this kind of encounter as well. So, okay, I think that's it for this little, or for this video and this little mini series again. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers for now.